Well, time again for another episode, another gruelling episode, that is, of Let's Talk Footy. Melbourne's Joy 94.9, Dougal Austin once again here with you, and today we're in the Olympic room at the MCG. What are we here for? We're here for the official launch of Collingwood Great Lou Richards' autobiography, My Wonderful Life, written by Lou himself and Stephen Phillips, and together they've put through a wonderful book, and I've got a copy in my bag that I can show you all a bit later on. Look, it's going to be a fantastic event. We've got a star-studded panel that are ready to speak about Lou's life. Ed McGuire, Sam Newman, Garry Lyon, Bill Brownless, and of course Collingwood Premiership player who played with alongside the man himself, Lou Richards, Weideman. And we're going to try and catch up with a few of the talent around here and try and ask them about their memories, favourite memories of Lou Richards, the man himself. So stay tuned. It's going to be a fantastic event here at the Olympic Room at the MCG for the official launch of Lou Richards' My Wonderful Life autobiography, written by Lou and Stephen Phillips. We'll be back shortly with more from the MCG.
Welcome to all our friends from the media. Welcome to our panel. And I'll start with Ed, because I know, Ed, when you wrote the foreword, you did mention that you were going to immortalise Lou in bronze.
Yes, we are, and the statue should be ready by early next year, and it'll be out the front alongside his old teammate Bob Rose. And once we get the new redevelopment happening over there, we'll finish at the Westpac Centre. We're going to immortalise all our great champions, because a bit like Lou being left out of the legends at the AFL, despite Collingwood's tremendous history here at the MCG, we don't have anyone recognised here, so we'll do it ourselves as we always do. So Lou's up next, and it's actually in works as we speak. And you know, Lou's contribution to football, to the media, to life in Melbourne. As a kid, you got the Saturday Sun to just read Lou's tips. It was the greatest and funniest things on 3DB. Lou's panel, the whole of when I started 30 years ago today at Channel 10, we used to stop to watch Lou and Jack and of course Bob, but Sam getting on the panel and doing all those great things. It was just a moment in time that made people fall in love with the game of football. So Lou's contribution has been one of the greatest in the history of the game, and I think it's just fantastic that his latest great-grandson is Albert, because Albie Penham and Charlie Penham go right back to the first game at Victoria Park. In fact, Charlie Penham played in the first ever Collingwood match at Victoria Park, and that of course is Lou's grandfather. So the Richards name has just been synonymous with everything in the AFL, and you don't have to be on any wall, mate. You're a legend, and everybody knows it, and we'll have a statue for you by the start of season 2013.
Lou, very humbling, isn't it? Well done. Sam, I remember when you came down to World of Sport to be on the panel for the first time, and we had some pretty august newcomers in those days. Kevin Sheedy had a tryout, and Peter Patrick Pius, Paul Keenan, and then you walked in. It was all fairly daunting for a 300-game veteran.
It was, and Lou was a great help. He gave us nothing. He used to smoke those Silver Kings, I think, or he used to butt them on your shoes. He used to just drop ash on your lapels or on your shoulder. So keep out of my way. But in all seriousness, as we say in the classics, I don't know if any of us would be if it wasn't for Lou, and of course the late Bob and the late Jack, who just followed around behind him, and he was a trailblazer, trendsetter, use whatever cliche you like, and he started it all off for all of us, and make no mistake about that being modest or just a throwaway line. He started it for all of us, you great man. And I started in 1980 when I finished playing at Geelong. I'd already stepped in and filled in for Jack, who had a car accident on the way to the Cat Kazali Awards, and Ron Casey seemed to think what I did was, well, it wasn't good by any stretch of imagination, but he said it was interesting. So I started and sat next to Lou for many years, and then when he moved to 9, we used to do the tips on the football under John Sorrell. So we have a reasonable history, and I feel very proud and very honoured to be almost mentioned in the same breath, to be honest.
And the good thing about it is, Sam, he was always dapper. He was the dapper Don, wasn't he?
He was as sharp as he was very, very sharp, Lou, and gave nothing, as I say. Polly was my great mentor at Geelong. Never spoke a word to me, but just watching him, that's what I learned about football. Just watching that man go about off-the-cuff remarks, not too many notes, in fact no notes, and just speak and then try and think about what you were saying once you got the tongue going. And I've followed on very well in that line, I'll tell you that. And that's what Lou showed us all.
Murray, you were there. You're one of the few living people, apart from Ron, who saw him play football. Go back to the 53 grand final. You were 19 years old. He's the captain. You're playing Geelong. What sort of a leader of men was he?
Well, Lou's quite a character, and I've got to say this, as a leader, not that Lou was probably the greatest footballer of all time, but as a leader, and I've got to judge it this way, that let's say Ron and both Lou were brought up in the Collingwood area, and my mother, I used to go and watch the seconds on the Saturday, and then the following week the seniors played away. I wasn't allowed to go, so I had to always go to the Collingwood ground to watch either the seconds or the seniors, and I saw Louis play after the 45s, Bobby Rose, Ronnie Richardson, all those great players. But Louis, I can remember I was playing one day, and I was playing on Des Row, and I turned around, and here's Lou and Max hopping into it. And because I was only a kid of 17, and I thought, Jesus Christ, he's just like a boxing ring, here. And I thought, what do you do? And I went to move, and Rowie said, hey, kid, get back here, they're too big for you. So I kept out of that one, and I remember in the Carlton game, and Kenny Hands put Neville Waller down, and then Bobby Rose put Maxie Wen down his first game, and it was my first game at this Carlton game. And I played on. Maxie Wen never played another game, but I can remember Lou picking up the ball, and Bill Barber was the umpire, and he threw the ball at Bill. He said, just bounce the bloody thing, will you? You could see a brawl was going to come from everywhere, but that's how smart Lou was. He's clever, and Bill Barber, he went to panic zone, and of course he's Lou saying, just bounce the bloody ball. So, but anyhow, I've got to say this, and I played in the thirds in 53, played a couple of games, and 12 in the seconds, and then I was a reserve in the seniors. And I remember Lou coming to me in 54 the next season. He said, kid, I want to have to talk to you in the doctor's room there. And I said, what's the problem? He said, oh, a few of the trainers saying you got a bit of a big head and you got this and that. And I suppose I did. I got out of control, but I've got to say, I remember the words that Lou said to me. He said, no, come on, kid, if you want to be a good footballer, so-and-so, you be nice to everybody. And I never forgot that, what Lou said to me in those days. And for that, Lou, I thank you very much, because it was great for me to get that warning in life. And my head had got bigger than my boots, I suppose. But
geez, I'll tell you what, it would have been handy in those days. Murray, premiership player, just a kid, good looking, town hall dance. You would have almost had to put a boy on. Exactly.
There's only three of us in the room that saw Lou play. That's Ron, him, and me.
Did you see 55?
I saw 55. I was there. I was 10.
How was he?
Hey.
You got the tail end.
He was a sorry. Ed told me 20 years ago to use the microphone. He's just told me to use it then. Yeah, he was a star. Yeah, three of us in the room. Anyone else see Lou play in the room? No one. Just us three.
Gaz, we'll pass it along. I wasn't joking when I said you're the multimedia megastar of today, because you mix the papers and the radio and the TV. A lot of guys do it. In Lou's day, he was just about the only one.
Yeah. Before Ed and Samuel took over the mantle, you've got to understand, I grew up in Quadrum, and Lou Richards was the biggest thing in life. Don't worry about footy, because in the paper, and then we'd watch him on the television, and he was commentating those games, and in the country, you know, he just hung out for every single little bit of the footy media that you could get, and Louis was the king. And so for me to come down here and eventually work with him was surreal and humbling. And the thing that I always recall, when I was doing the Sunday footy show, so that was my first hosting job, probably one Ed didn't want to do, so that got passed on to us. And Lou, the Lou Richards Medal is named after Lou, and the thing that always love about Louis, and particularly the greater footy community, is the reverence with which he is held. And I know all his contemporaries here do, but the younger generation, and we have a younger panel that come through, and regardless, and we turn those guys over as well, Lou was always the king. And as the time wore on, he would come in, we'd have a breakfast, a Sunday footy show breakfast, and the boys would, Bill was laughing down there. Then he hung over because Saturday was always, you know, watch the footy and then have a few beers, and Lou would roll in at about, we'd be on air at 11 and he'd roll in at about 10:30 and put his stamp on the meeting straight away with his own unique take on footy. And I loved his no-nonsense, no bullshit approach to football and to life, Louis. And if I can tell this story with the greatest respect, we sat down there one day, Bill and myself and Brian Taylor and Danny Frawley, I think, and we wandered in and news came through that Jack Dyer, Lou's great mate, had passed away. And, you know, we all were very sad. We were working out how we were going to deal with it. And we said, oh, we'll lose the man. And we were all very nervous about how Louis was going to handle it. And so everyone, I was hosting, so they said, well, you've got to tell him. I said, oh, okay. So Lou walked in, and there was just this hush came over the table. And everyone looked at me, and I said, g'day, Lou. And, yes, g'day. I said, look, some sad news, Louis. That your great mate, I'm not sure if you're aware, Jack Dyer passed away, and Louis said, looked at us and paused, and said, where's the fucking sandwiches? So, taught us all a great lesson, Lewis. You know, life goes on, the show goes on, and you handled it magnificently. So, another quick one I always loved was he used to wander on, because he could walk onto our panel whenever he felt the need and interrupt our show. We had a guy called Troy Simmons, or some of you may be aware, that played footy for Melbourne and Richmond and Fremantle, and he was a snake handler. He had about 20 snakes. And he was a guest on the panel this day, and he brought 3 snakes. He brought 3 snakes in. And we were all very nervous. We all jumped out of the seat because he was holding these snakes around. And Lou wandered on the set and said, give me that fucking snakes. He grabbed the snakes and he threw them in our face. You thought they were fake. To this day, I reckon Louis thought they were fake. He's grabbing them and throwing them, and he threw them back at Troy. And we love it. And he used to sit up there as the king, and he is still the king, and it remains one of the great highlights to have worked alongside him.
Yes, Billy, you ended up becoming Jack almost. You and Lou became the sparring partners.
No, nowhere near Jack, but we used to have
bigger ears.
With the handball we used to do, and the Lou's handball still goes on the Sunday footy show, which is unbelievable. We still do Lou's handball and say g'day to him every Sunday, and we've still got the Lou Richards medal on the Sunday footy show, which is unbelievable. So you know, he still lives on, and he's fantastic. But we used to have some fun, and unfortunately, we used to have a couple of little sparring sessions, and I hate telling this story because his family's here too, but I had a puppet one day, and I don't know what I was doing, but I was just had it in his face going rah, 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 like this, being stupid as usual at him. And poor old Lou's taken a couple of steps backwards and lost his balance and fell backwards and hurt himself, really hurt himself. And I remember I had my 2 young kids there, and all the way home they're going, Dad, what did you do to that old man? What did you do to that old man? And poor old Louis was crook, I think. Channel 9 sent out a recliner to him to fix things over. But, mate, it was unbelievable. It was the worst feeling I've ever had in my life. And people would ask me in the streets, what did you do to Lou Richards? Because everyone knows him, everyone loves him. Oh, it was the worst week of my life, and I had to ring up and see how he was and things like that, but it was a terrible time for me.
In the end, they had to give him a throne.
Yeah,
was that to keep him in one spot?
Well, he sat on that big throne, but his little feet wouldn't touch the floor. He's swinging all over his feet on this big throne over there, and then he'd yell out and we'd say, what? Ah, shut up! And we're on air, Lou, and that was a great thing. As soon as the red light went on or whatever, Lou was away, and he was fantastic at it. And we all loved working with him, except when he ate those bacon and egg sandwiches Sunday mornings, and the bacon used to be a bit long. And you start choking and you go, oh shit, you're going to have to save him here. Someone's going to have to do mouth to mouth. And then one of us would have to whack him on the back. And the bacon would come up and, oh, Jesus. Oh, it's fantastic.
Ed, just, we'll wind this up, but I just want to ask you one thing, how important it is that we get the history of yesteryear, and it's so important, isn't it?
Steve, this book is great because it has all the great stories, and there's a couple of salient points that are in there as well, and that is the great stories from the golden era of football. We know that Lou is, from 53 is the premiership, and with Ronnie as the best on ground, will forever be etched in Collingwood and AFL history. But I think one of the key things that I love about this book, you mentioned how dapper Lou was before. Well, as a young reporter coming through, I remember Lou grabbing me one day at Carlton of all places and saying, "Get over here, kid. I've heard you go on places, stick with me, you'll be wearing diamonds," and all that sort of stuff. But more importantly was the words of advice I got from Edna. And Edna used to make sure that Lou looked magnificent with the matching kerchief and the tie, and his suits were impeccable. And I remember looking at Lou and, thinking that's the way you go about it.